Story 1. My old apartment complex gym used to be open all day, every day until one woman decided to bring her entire CrossFit group at 3 a.m. They dropped weights, blasted music, and damaged the equipment. Story 2. Fresh psilocybin mushroom sales in the Netherlands. A French tourist consumed a significant amount of them, then drank excessively and jumped from a bridge, resulting in his death. Story 3. The child who injured his head at the swimming hole we visited most summer days. We advised him not to dive from there, but he did anyway, so they closed it off for everyone forever. Story 4. I attended a concert in high school featuring some 41 and Simple Plan. Someone threw a full water bottle on stage, hitting the lead singer of Simple Plan in the face. He had to leave to get stitches, and the concert ended. Simple Plan had played only 2.5 songs. Story 5. The communal office fridge at my last job was used by someone to store their experimental kimchi for 3 months. Story 6. All tamper-evident packaging originates from an incident in the 1980s when an unknown person slipped poisoned capsules into Tylenol bottles. Before that, no one required excessive force to open a box of crackers. Story 7. Well, not everyone, but every employee at a bar and restaurant I worked at in high school could have free soda during their shift. Cans or fountain drinks were a perk of working there. The cans were kept behind the bar with the alcohol, while the fountain soda was at the waitstaff stations. My friend insisted that canned soda was better and convinced everyone else. I didn't really care and was fine with fountain drinks. One day during a health inspection, a kid went behind the bar to grab a can of soda. We were in high school and the inspector noticed this. It is not legal to have minors going behind a bar where I live, so they wrote my boss up and gave him a fine, warning him that his liquor license could be revoked. The boss rightfully said that soda was still free. Help yourself to fountain drinks as you please, or ask a bartender for a can. They would get it for you. This perfectly reasonable solution, offered at my employer's grace, was not acceptable for one guy. He convinced every kid working there except me to get soda through him, claiming he was going to fix things. Rather than asking for a round of sodas for all 13 kids at once, he decided to stagger the requests. Over the course of an hour, he would ask for 1 soda every 5 minutes. By the time he got the soda for the last employee, the first employee would have finished their soda, and he would be back at the bar starting the cycle again. Every 5 minutes, all shift, he was asking for another soda for someone else. I warned him this was an incredibly unwise idea that was not going to end well. Didn't. After 3 shifts, the boss called another employee meeting. Fountain soda was still free, and if you wanted a can, you could buy one for the same price anyone else paid. He never saw it coming and got very upset with me when I asked him what he thought was going to happen. It never occurred to him that, 1. Free soft drinks were a grace of our employer, not an entitlement. Their request was totally reasonable. If a bar loses its liquor license, it will go out of business. It would not be difficult for us to comply with these new and reasonable rules. It was absolutely within our boss's rights to change the rules again. This remains one of the most foolish decisions I have ever seen someone make. For the rest of our employment there, we had fountain soda and complained to me about how much worse it was than canned soda. Story 8. The person at my workplace who submitted an expense for his family's dinner caused management to scrutinize every receipt. They did not lose their job. Thank you for that. Story 9. Niche answer, but community volunteers in tabletop gaming have been crucial. Many companies used to have official volunteer groups to promote their games at gaming conventions. For example, Privateer Press had press gangers and Magic. The Gathering had its own supporters. This approach helped generate interest in their games. However, this practice has diminished due to a lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast years ago, where it was claimed that volunteer work constituted a form of employment, leading to demands for back pay and benefits. As a result, many gaming companies quickly shut down their volunteer programs to avoid similar legal issues. Story 10. The national newspaper held an annual literary quiz contest for years, featuring questions so obscure that if you looked them up back then in the early days of Google, you would have to virus scan your computer afterward. I was one of the winners twice and received merchandise. The last time they hosted the contest, I teamed up with 2 other contest winners, and we shared the questions, guesses, and answers on a bulletin board. Little did we know that you could search within the site where we posted them, again in the early days of Google. They eventually received a flood of entries copied from our collected answers. A few months later, they retired the contest. Story 11. Chewing gum was banned in Singapore because the rapid transit system installed new safety doors on the station platforms, and children took great delight in jamming their chewed gum into the door tracks, causing delays. Trains couldn't leave until staff could be summoned to remove the gum and allow the platform doors to close, disrupting the public transit schedule in overcrowded, fast-paced Singapore. This situation simply couldn't be allowed in such a micromanaged, top-down, autocratic nation. As a result, federal authorities banned the importation and sale of chewing gum. Visitors can bring a very limited quantity, but that's it. Story 12. The first thing that came to my mind was the creator of Flappy Bird experiencing a breakdown and removing the app. Story 13. The mother of the boy who crawled into Harambe's enclosure is aware that Harambe's death initiated a series of unfortunate events in our timeline. Story 14. The Patriot Act, enacted by President Bush, resulted in a significant loss of privacy and an increase in policing. Even after 25 years, privacy has not been restored to its previous state. Story 15. Coupons are not what they used to be due to some individuals taking advantage of them excessively. Story 16. The Sacklers and pain treatment. Currently, it is difficult for many people to access proper pain treatment, which raises questions about the significant number of individuals on fentanyl. Story 17. We could not use the hallway lockers in school because a neighbor brought a gun. However, we could use the gym lockers. They removed the break room lockers at work because an employee stored expired food and junk in them. However, we could use the new desk day lockers. The actual problem lies with those in charge making those decisions. Story 18. There was a toy when I was younger that was a jelly ball on an elastic string, which reportedly got banned because some child accidentally strangled himself. Story 19. In middle school, we had a planned field trip to the zoo to celebrate our last year as middle schoolers. Unfortunately, one student thought it would be a better idea to go out with a bang by starting a food fight in the cafeteria instead. The end-of-year school trip was canceled for everyone, and all students had to help clean up the mess. The cafeteria smelled terrible until the end of the school year because the janitors couldn't reach the food stuck in the high ceilings. Story 20. Years ago, the apartment complex I lived in had a laundromat, and the machines were free for residents. However, one resident made copies of her key, and after that, the place was always crowded with people who didn't live at the complex. When the owner noticed the increase in utilities and figured out what was happening, he installed a system where everyone had to pay for laundry. Story 21. McDonald's stopped giving out actual Happy Meal toys and switched to paper ones. Thank you to the child who had a choking incident in 1999. Story 22. The angry deaf individual who had all University of California, Berkeley lectures removed from YouTube due to the lack of captions. Story 23. Whoever leaked the cutscenes for Super Smash Bros. Single-player mode caused Nintendo to remove the entire feature. Story 24. Lowe's stopped offering military discounts because some individuals began buying lumber in bulk and reselling it along with other items. Story 25. When I was a child, Pokemon was banned from television in my country because a child decided he was Pidgeotto and jumped out of a window. Story 26. I used to work at a large office campus that had four-wheeled scooters available for us to get from one side of the campus to the other quickly. We were all adults and used them responsibly. They were big and heavy, so it was not like we could do tricks as if they were smaller scooters. One individual who poured vodka into their coffee, got too drunk, fell off one of the scooters, and lost most of his front teeth. He attempted to sue the company and left negative reviews on job review sites after being fired for intoxication on the job. Story 27. UK motorways originally had no speed limit until a team from AC Motors decided to use one to test their 185 miles per hour Cobra in preparation for Le Mans. The 70 miles per hour limit was introduced the following year. Story 28. Everyone saying America and the presidency is forgetting that this situation required a significant number of individuals to occur. Story 29. Remote work can be disrupted by one individual who may be preoccupied with personal tasks such as taking their child to school, mowing the lawn, taking a nap, or forgetting to charge their computer during the workday, which can negatively impact the entire team. Story 30. Every hobby or interest ever created has been ruined by one or more irresponsible individuals. For example, metal detecting is a nice, relaxing hobby that offers interesting discoveries. People generally didn't mind others participating until some individuals started leaving unfilled holes after digging, and this upset many. Fishing, a sport enjoyed for hundreds of years, was a great way to relax and appreciate nature. However, issues arose when some individuals began leaving trash everywhere, starting fires, and depleting fish populations. Now, it's difficult to find a good place to fish. Think of any hobby, and it's likely you can identify how some people have negatively impacted it for everyone. Story 31. Airline travel after September 11th has become a significant challenge. It is important to remember the innocent people who lost their lives, along with their family members and children. I had a cousin who died in the tragedy. While some may believe we deserved this due to various reasons, there must be a better way to resolve conflicts. Perhaps a boxing ring could serve as an alternative solution. Story 32. The individual with the shoe bombs that did not work has resulted in everyone needing to remove their shoes for security checks before flights, and often again for secondary security when transferring to other flights. Fortunately, the attempted underwear bomber did not lead to the same consequence. Story 33. Whoever decided that you can only travel with a small amount of liquid in your luggage. I mean, you can buy things at the store wherever you land. Still, I must express my frustration. Story 34. They stopped giving leftover food to employees and the homeless in U.S. restaurants because someone got food poisoning from the leftovers and sued the restaurant for millions in a settlement. As a result, all major fast food chains banned giving away leftover food and instead threw it in the trash. This made food availability difficult for the homeless. Story 35. Pogs were a lot of fun. I became quite good at it and managed to grow my collection significantly from a few donated pieces a friend gave me. It helped me socialize with others, as I usually kept to myself and read books. Then, one day, we were all told we couldn't play anymore because someone's mother considered it a form of gambling. Story 36. The individual who mailed anthrax was likely a researcher working on an anthrax vaccine. He was about to lose his funding, but a shipment of anthrax was mailed with fake extremist letters, and suddenly his funding was restored. He took his own life before he could be arrested as the investigation into him began, but he was never formally charged. Military personnel who are deployed have been required to receive the anthrax vaccine since then, and it often leaves a noticeable scar. Story 37. The McDonald's coffee stir stick, which was also useful for cocaine, was abolished in 1979. An anti-drug organization campaigned until it successfully convinced McDonald's to stop using it. You can no longer use the most effective coffee stir stick because your sacrifice will help inconvenience cocaine users. Cocaine users will have to purchase a tiny spoon for $10. The good news is that discontinuing these spoons has completely eradicated the use of powdered illegal narcotics in North America. Story 38. I advised a new colleague to avoid abusing the company credit card to keep it safe. However, during the first work trip, they attempted to expense a $100 manicure and pedicure. Management became aware of this situation, resulting in several years of strict receipt reviews, often questioning the legitimacy of small expenses. It was an unfortunate situation for everyone involved. Story 39. Not really one person, but digital piracy. The golden age of piracy was remarkable. You could access whatever you wanted, and there were fantastic streaming sites for movies. Then, everyone started making videos about topics like Kodi and retro gaming torrents. This led to a significant increase in illegal downloads in my country, with people advertising on social media about setting up Kodi and other streaming services for a fee. Now, there is a considerable crackdown on piracy, making it challenging to access content. I understand that piracy is wrong, but when I cannot watch a TV show or access an old game legally, it's often the only option left. Story 40. I'd like to say this Reddit thread is about more than just one person who can't follow simple instructions. Story 41. Not everyone, but Lawrence Brewer eliminated last meals in Texas after refusing to eat a large and expensive meal he requested as his final meal. Story 42. One child falls out of a window, and suddenly every hotel window in my country can open just enough to remind you of the fresh air you aren't getting. Story 43. My answer is the individual who poisoned Tylenol bottles back in 1982. That event marked the beginning of tamper-proof packaging, which evolved into those difficult plastic bubbles that require strong scissors to open. Story 44. Christian girls' parents complained that Halloween was against their religion and referred to it as the devil's holiday. So we could no longer dress up in elementary school for the yearly parade. Any Halloween-related activities ended at school. This occurred around 2003 in a public school in the United States. Story 45. The man who didn't wash his hands was leaving the Wuhan Virology Research Center after working with COVID-19. Story 46. In Turkey many years ago, a child jumped from a balcony after watching Pokemon on television, yelling Pikachu, thinking he could fly. As a result, they banned the show. A similar situation occurred with Spider-Man. Story 47. We were working offshore on an oil rig performing maintenance, and due to some unusual rules, we had to split our shift to cover 19 hours. This resulted in working a significant amount of overtime, and thanks to some special regulations, we also received bonus pay and many other benefits. We earned about 1 year's salary in 2 months. However, one individual felt he could obtain even more, so he sent a detailed complaint to our supervisor. The supervisor then realized the excessive number of hours we were working, and instead of allowing the situation to continue, he implemented a second shift, which resulted in fewer hours than normal. Suddenly, we were earning less than we would have in a typical rotation. Everyone disliked that individual. Nobody wanted to work with him, and he was essentially left on his own afterward. He quit after a few months. He disrupted things for everyone and then left. Story 48. Many companies stopped giving away Thanksgiving turkeys after 1 year when a company faced financial difficulties and informed employees they could not afford the tradition that year. A woman sued the company and won, claiming it was an expected benefit. Story 49. The only laundromat in our small town closed because someone thought it would be funny to repeatedly defecate in a washing machine. Story 50. Casual Fridays at work featured a very fit coworker who wore spandex tights and a sports bra. It was too revealing, leading to the decision to discontinue Casual Fridays. Story 51. A hug from behind while I am in the kitchen is a very sweet gesture that is meaningful only to lovers. I would have loved to experience this moment when I finally find my partner, but unfortunately, I no longer desire it. My cousin has forced this gesture on me many times, and now it is forever ruined for me. Story 52. I have a story where I was technically the idiot. In middle school, I had a literature class that I struggled with, taught by a very old-fashioned woman. She had a chapter in her plan called Prepositions Are Easy as Pie, where all the students had to remember and write down all of the prepositions in a sentence on a piece of paper and spell them correctly. I struggled with a bad memory and an inability to spell, which I still struggle with. Naturally, I hated this chapter. The teacher decided that once every student finished the test for the chapter and passed, there would be a day called Pie Day. We could bring in pies made by our families and share them. I am very food-oriented, so the best reward for me was food, and I would try my hardest to earn it. I studied extensively to pass because I wanted all that delicious pie. I remember taking the test 5 or 6 times, getting closer to passing each time. On the 6th attempt, I only missed 1 or 2 words. But I guess it took me too long to pass the test for the teacher's taste. The next day, when I came to take the test again, she made an announcement. Well, everybody, we were going to have pie in 2 days. But it seems like my name isn't taking this seriously. I have decided to cancel Pie Day so we can move on to our next chapter because we've wasted enough time as it is. Every other student in the class shot daggers at me, and I went deadpan, slumping in my seat for the rest of the class, not listening to anything. During passing time, I went and cried in the bathroom silently and got written up for being late to my next class. I really hated middle school, Sorry for the long message. I just felt like this was somewhat relevant. Story 53. It was the annual office retreat, a rare chance for the entire team to unwind at a beautiful lakeside resort. Everyone had been looking forward to the grand barbecue dinner, especially the legendary steak grill-off between the chief executive officer and the head of sales. Then came Todd. Todd, the new employee in accounting, had a few too many drinks and decided it would be funny to start the grill with lighter fluid. A lot of it. One dramatic whoosh later, the flames shot up so high they set off the resort's emergency sprinklers. Water rained down on the perfectly seasoned steaks, the buffet table, and the expensive outdoor furniture. The speakers short-circuited, cutting off the music mid-song. Chaos ensued as people scrambled for cover, and the chief executive officer stood there, dripping wet, his ruined steak dangling from a pair of tongs. By morning, the resort had banned the company from ever booking there again. The grill-off was never rescheduled. And Todd? Well, let's just say his name became a verb for messing up spectacularly. Story 54. Japan has few public trash cans due to a security measure following the 1995 sarin gas attacks by members of the cult movement Aum Shinrikyo. Story 55. We used to have a door code for the apartment building to let delivery personnel in, so we didn't have to search for our keys. One woman believed she could rehabilitate homeless individuals and panhandlers by reminding them what a full stomach and a warm place to sleep felt like. So she gave the code to many of them. Some men realized she couldn't really ask them to leave, and her apartment became a drug den, leading them to start stealing items. Now we don't have a door code. Story 56. The person who acted like COVID-19 wasn't going to be a significant issue, and later talked about injecting bleach and other imprudent ideas. Story 57. We watched Pokemon in Turkey, and one day, one of the kids said, "I am Pikachu. I am going to fly." And he jumped out of his apartment window. He is still alive, but Pokemon was banned in Turkey after that. Story 58. The pond on a golf course near my house is a public park. A kind citizen donated funds to preserve it, stock it with bass, and maintain the foliage and bubblers to keep the fish happy a long time ago. It is located in a retirement community, and there were ducks and turtles. I actually caught a couple of 3 to 4 pound bass from there a few years ago. However, some teenagers discovered it and started making noise, building bike ramps on the tees, and engaging in typical after-school activities. We are in Arizona and close to a decent golf resort with 36 holes. People pay $250 per round there, so the course cut down the foliage, turned off the waterfall and bubblers, and the lake is basically dead now. The teenagers have since gotten cars, found girlfriends, and are nowhere to be found. We can't have nice things. Story 59. My high school allowed students to eat off campus during lunch, but then a tragic incident occurred during my junior year when a student and his friends lost their lives in a car accident, and we were no longer permitted to leave the campus for lunch. Story 60. We cannot have a toaster in the office because someone once set off the fire alarm. I have been with the company for 8 years, and that incident occurred before I started. Story 61. I used to visit a customer's meat processing facility where they package sausages, bacon, pies, cheese, and more. The facility is owned by a large supermarket in the UK. In the staff canteen, there was a fridge where workers and visitors could purchase all the products made on site. A large gammon joint was priced at 20 pence compared to the retail price of £5, and all other products were very affordable. They even sold test flavors of sausages, and all products were properly branded. However, one worker decided to start selling the products to the general public. Because the products were branded, customers would direct their complaints to the supermarket even if they hadn't purchased the items there. As complaints about the test products increased, it became clear what was happening. The site limited purchases to 2 items per person, and when that did not curb the complaints, they completely halted the sales to the public. Thank you to the worker who spoiled a pleasant site to visit, and to the customers who bought cheap meat from someone unknown and then complained to the supermarket. Story 62. The child at school who fell off the monkey bars and broke his arm was put on the out-of-bounds equipment list, which eventually led to the removal of the monkey bars from the playground. Story 63. The Sandy Hook shooter has made me aware of the importance of politics to avoid legal issues related to gun ownership. Story 64. Pretty much everything. I call it the law of a few individuals. Many of the laws we have exist because of the actions of a few individuals. Story 65. A child fell off the stairs at the high dive at the local pool. They removed the high dive. They should have just raised the height requirement for diving. Story 66. We used to have a local ice skating rink until a woman fell and tried to sue the town. They decided it wasn't worth the cost after that and shut it down. Now, you have to drive 2 hours away if you want to go ice skating. Story 67. People are misusing the call-out policy at work. This makes requesting time off or reporting illness a hassle. Story 68. I was the idiot. In second grade, I fell asleep in class and ruined the Friday pizza party for everyone because of it. I remember kids begging for the party. Basically, if no one's name got taken out of the moose puzzle, we would have a party. I was coming down with a fever and fell asleep in class. I remember waking up and seeing my name removed from the moose pie chart. The teacher was watching me closely. Any names that were removed from the moose, our names were written on puzzle pieces that, when put together, formed a moose that resembled Bullwinkle. Meant we did not get the party. I lost friends. Story 69. A couple of things from my childhood. I took an outdoor survival class in middle school, and we were supposed to go on an overnight camping trip. During class, a few students decided to throw rocks at cars, which got the trip canceled. In high school, every year the sophomores would watch Schindler's List. The same group of students from earlier were loudly mocking the movie and making crude comments. The film was no longer shown after that incident. In my junior year, one of my classmates decided to graduate early to join her boyfriend in the military. She wasn't allowed to receive her senior awards because she wasn't officially a senior. She and her family raised a significant uproar about it, including writing to the town newspaper. After that, no one was allowed to graduate early. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.